welcome to another episode of Learning to Drum. I am your host, Adam Tedlin, and we're in Week 11, Episode 8. And last week, we reviewed the single stroke roll, and we found some different ways to play it, whether it be on a pillow or turning your sticks around. Hopefully you're still working on that. We also talked about accent exercise on one hand and making sure that you really have some defined contrast between the downstroke or the tap. And then also we learned the second rudiment, which is the flam. That's not rudiment number 2, it's just the second rudiment that we've learned. And welcome again. And if this is your first time watching, I implore you to go back to episode 1, catch up with us. You are under no pressure, no deadlines, so don't worry. And without further ado, let's go back and review that accent exercise on one hand. We started it at 45. I recommended to even go slower because when you're doing those different types of strokes, you want to make sure you're doing them correctly. Make sure that the tap before the next accent is going to be a tap up stroke. Next week, hopefully you can be at 50 beats per minute. We're going to dial it at 45 like we did last week. Okay, here we go. 2, 1, and 2, and here we go. Down, down, tap, tap, up, tap, tap, up, tap, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, 2, 3, up, 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 all out, right? For the left and up, 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 2, 3, 4, down, 2, all out. So how did that feel? And one thing I also want to remind you of is making sure you're one with that metronome and trying to play in time or exactly with that metronome as best as you can. I'm sure you're wondering, why are we not counting this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and? Well, the reason why, because I know I said we don't want to have different things in place of the counting system that's so important, but on this separate occasion, because we're just focusing on the accented notes or the downstrokes and the taps, non-accented notes, there's really no reason to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can if you want. But an easy way for me to remember this exercise back when I first learned it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So, I know it's not the most funnest thing to do at this very slow tempo, but I guarantee you, you will reach better results when it comes to doing this exercise very slowly. And you will be doing it deliberately, and it's all about the motion. Remember, I used that Karate Kid analogy of how Miyagi, the teacher, had Daniel-san focusing on the movements that he's doing, establishing what I call that gelatin mold. And that's the same thing that's going to be applying for you. And if you can do that, the more control you're going to have over those separate notes, and you're going to have a better time down the road when it comes to drum set playing. That said, let's go ahead and review the flam. Now, how are you doing with the flams? If you are having a hard time with them, that's okay, because most people have a hard time with their flams. The important thing is not speed at this time. The important thing is understanding those different strokes to execute those flams consistently. Always start up in one position or the other. You can start with your right or the left, that's fine. And make sure one hand's up, of course, and one hand's down. You act like you're going to hit at the same time, but remember what I said last week is that grace note is going to come a split second before the main note. So you go ahead and start in the up position like this, and now before you do your left-handed flam, check yourself. Is my right stick about 1 inch away from the pad in the set position? Is my left hand ready in the up position, ready for the next flam? Okay? And if all that's yes, you do the next one. And again, you check yourself. Check yourself. Check yourself. Okay? And once you get consistent in that, once you get used to that, then you can try to start gaining speed. And naturally, as you're getting faster with any rudiment, naturally your sticks are going to get lower to the pad as opposed to, okay? So, and that's just a distance thing. Now, I have seen players back in the olden days where they did the, of course, the molar, and they were in the drum and bugle corps, and this is around the 50s and 60s, to where they were playing very high. And it is possible to play fast high, I've seen it. But in this case scenario, just remember that, you know, when you're getting faster at your flams, or single stroke roll, or anything else, you're going to get a little bit lower to the pad, okay? But maintaining the strokes and going all the way up and all the way down, at least slow, is going to be good because you're getting all those muscles strengthened. Oops. Okay, so again, it's not about speed. Just check yourself and make sure that, yes, my hands are in the right position to do the next flam. Also, if you want, go back and review silencing one of those hands and isolating those different strokes. Okay, we find this in accent exercise in one hand, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. It's just a downstroke and a tap upstroke, right? Okay? All right. Hopefully you folks are getting that under your belt and understanding it. Just spend some time with it. That's all you have to do. And let's move on to our reading exercises. And we got a lot of reading to do today. Last week I said try 6, 7, and 8 on your own. And how did that go? Was it okay? Let's find out. Okay, so we're at 80. And we'll go ahead and read number 6. We'll stop. We'll start number 7, stop, and 8. Okay? You can play these consecutively through, or you can, of course, you know, play them individually. So, okay, here we go, number 6. 1 and 2, and here we go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 2 and left, left, right, left, right, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. Very good. Okay. Let's go on to number 7. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and very easy. And then we'll go on to number 8 after that. 1 and 2 and number 7 play. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 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 and 1 and 3 and 4 and left, right, left, right, left, right, right. 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and okay. If you can't get it at that speed, that's okay. Just on your own, make sure you slow it down to a speed that you can get it at. But eventually you want to make sure you can get it up to at least 80 beats per minute. That's a nice starting point, but for some people it's probably not going to happen, and that's okay. Just make sure you take it at your pace. Now, number 8 is the final one on study number 2. And again, these are just eighth notes and quarter notes, the relationship between twice as fast or twice as slow. Okay? Here we go, number 8. 1 and 2, and here we go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right, left, right, and right, left, right, left, and left, right, left, and left, and right, left, and. All right, good job. Okay, we're going to move on to study number 3. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to page 14. There's the accent exercise in one hand on page 13, which we did last week. Now, study number 3 on page 14 is going to deal with quarter notes and rests and eighth notes, okay? Not too bad, okay? So instead of playing a quarter note on beat 4, number 1, we're going to be resting for that amount of time. And notice we have the flam there. The flam is optional, and you do or do not have to play it. I recommend playing it because, I mean, if we're learning rhythm and we can apply some rudimental things to it, like the single stroke roll when we've just played eighth notes, let's do that and have some fun with it. But if it's a little bit difficult, then that's okay. Here we go. So number 1, we're going to play it a little slower. We're going to be doing it at 70. Let's just see how that does. 1 and 2 and here we go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, how did that feel with the flams? All right, let's try the left hand now. We're going to lead with the left hand on number 1, 2 and here we go. And okay, doing okay? All right, let's go on to number 2, and we'll do these individually, just so that way we could make sure we can try to get that flam in there. Let's try number 2. Here we go. 2, and here we go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and left, and 2, and right, and left, right, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so number 3, we're resting on beat 1. This is not too bad. We're just using quarter rests. When we get into the eighth note rests, some weeks down the road, a couple weeks I think, it's going to get a little bit more complicated, so make sure you get used to these rhythms and counting them and being very comfortable with them. Number 3, here we go, resting on beat 1, 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 1, and 1, no, right, left, right, and left, and 1, and 1, and 3, and 4, and good. Okay, so again, if you can't get the flams, that's okay. You could just do the rhythm itself. So let's move on to number 4. Not all of these have flams, and we can see that we have a rest again on beat 1, and then 2, and 3, and 4. 2, and here we go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 4. Okay, not too bad. Okay, and here's number 5, and we're resting on beat 3, and we have a flam on beat 4. 2, and here we go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and very good. Okay, here we go for number 6. We're going to be resting on the downbeat of 1 and the downbeat of 4, and so I still say 4 and 1, and so I can make sure I can get on beat 2 there with those eighth notes. So here we go. 2, 1 and 2, number 6, and play, and 1 and 2 and 3 and
and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 and left and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and. All right.
Cool. Number 7. This is going to be easy. As a matter of fact, this rhythm might be familiar in some different music that you've heard, okay? All right, number 7, here we go. 2, and here we go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 4. Left, 1, and left, right, 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and okay, good. You probably didn't recognize that rhythm, but if I were to play it, 1 and 2 and 3, oompa, oompa-dee-doo. Okay, that's from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring Gene Wilder. That's the only version that I want to recommend to go watch. Number 8 is the opposite. Now we're doing 1 and 3 and. Okay, here we go. And 2 and here we go. And 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 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 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and last time and 3 and 4 and good, good, good. Okay. Well, that's study number 3. And if you couldn't get it at 70 beats per minute, then I would go back and make sure you can play it at a tempo that you can withstand. And the goal you might want to have is like 80 beats per minute. That way you can get up to a point to where you're able to play. Now, I recommend even further. So study number 1, 2, and 3, you want to probably eventually maybe try to play it at 100 beats per minute. What does that sound like? Let's say if I played number 1 at 100 beats per minute, it would sound like this. After this study number 3, we're going to be going into solo number 1. And solo number 1 has the tempo marking of 110. Okay, yeah. I don't expect you to play it at 110. I'll perform it when we get to that at 110, of course, but then we'll start studying it, breaking down at, 60 to 80 beats per minute. So here's at 100. 2, here we go. You get the idea? Okay, 110. 2, here we go. Okay? Okay, it takes on a new shape when you're playing things a little faster, right? So make sure you try to stretch your limits. You can do it. If you can see yourself doing it, hear yourself doing it, you can do it. All right, and that concludes our episode number 8. I'm your host, Adam Tevlin, on Learning to Drum, and always remember to keep swinging those sticks. See ya.